one question I'm asked more than anything is, how do you sell your art? Well, there's all kinds of ways to sell your art, but I'm going to tell you one of the ways. But before I do, I want to tell you a couple of the ways that I tried to sell my art that didn't work. I want you to hang on to the end of the video and I'll tell you the one that did. I'm 65 years old and I've been painting all of my life. I think since I was 5 or 6 years old, I think anyway. And I started to draw and paint in school, and I would put my art on the walls, and I would be a part of the student shows, and any way I could show my work. And then when I was a teenager, I was painting in watercolor, and I did a few watercolors that seemed to have some merit, seemed to be okay, and so I hired a local gallery in the town where I lived at the time. It was the Franklin Carmichael Art Center in Etobicoke. It's still there today, and it's this beautiful old log cabin left to the city by one of the group of 7 members. Anyway, I had a bunch of watercolors, and I spent crazy money, all of my savings, to have them framed and matted in beautiful glass, and I put on a show. I think at that show I sold 5 or 6, and they were all to aunts and uncles and relatives. You know, I think my mother bought one too. What are you supposed to do when your son's an artist? You have to support them, right? But it wasn't to the general public. So I like to say that method didn't really work that well for me. And I began to use art galleries in general, who were quite happy to have my work on the walls. And that was a real vote of confidence. And they did a little promotion work, and they had their grand openings, and everything was just, the way galleries do things. In those days, there was no internet, so you kind of had to use galleries, and that's understood, and I accepted that. But I still couldn't quit my day job or whatever I was doing in those days. By the time I came to that conclusion, I was in my 20s, and I had already been working in some other fields. So that wasn't really working out. But it wasn't until when I was working at TD Bank, maybe 22 years ago, the internet was a brand new thing. And one of my coworkers said to me, "Hey, listen, take that bank-issued BlackBerry, that 1.2 megapixel BlackBerry, and take a picture of your art and put it on this new website called Kijiji." That same night, I sold a painting. And in the following year, I sold lots of paintings through Kijiji. But that wasn't enough to sustain myself as a career, as a living. And so then there was this day when I was having breakfast at my favorite diner, and I noticed that the walls were empty. So I said to the owner, his name is Jordan, "Hey Jordan, what do you think? Can I hang some paintings on your wall?" And he was like, "Oh, sure, Robert, I'd love to do it, but what if they get damaged? What if they get ketchup stains or something like that on them?" And I said, "Well, look, if you will be willing to accept my art on your wall, I'll accept the responsibility. I won't hold you accountable for that." Well, we shook hands and the deal was struck, and I said, "Do you want a percentage of it?" And he said, No, we're just happy to have your decorations on the wall. It's free advertising. Free advertising from me, but free decor for the diner. Great deal. Over the next year, I sold probably 90 paintings to the patrons of that beautiful little diner. And that turned into a 7-year arrangement until the owners changed hands, and the new owner wasn't keen on having art on the walls. He wanted to have some photographs of his family. Well, what can you do when that happens? But I had moved into other diners and cafes as well. And to this day, I have to say that 80 to 85% of my sales have come directly through the art that people see on the wall while they're having their coffee in the morning, while they're having their bacon and eggs, while they're having their toast and chatting with friends. And the way that works is just such a beautiful process. People come in and at first they don't notice you and they just kind of walk right past the decorations on the wall. Your art. And the second time they come in, they still don't notice. But after 4 or 5 times, they start to notice. Maybe they come in by themselves and they're just kind of not doing anything, sitting there sipping their coffee. And they look around and they see the art on the wall. And just like the art that you can see behind me here, this is a beautiful abstract artist in this cafe where I am right now. And eventually they would get a little closer and read the label. And then an email happens. And an inquiry happens. Oh, gosh darn. And before you know it, you're delivering a painting and you're getting paid for it. And all of a sudden, the wheels start to turn. Cafes, diners, imagine that. And you know, they're the most unassuming places because nobody would expect to see quality art on those walls. But they work. And I like to say, as my philosophy for selling art, that your art needs to be in real places where real people go every day. And with that, you'll connect with real people. People who are Joe average, you and me, you know. They're not some snobby art pro who only goes to high-end galleries and has no interest in budding artists or whatever. Cafes are, diners are where real people hang out. And like that show on TV, Cheers, where they say in the song, where everybody knows your name. Because not only do people buy your art, but first they buy the artist. And so when they know you, when they've seen you there, when you hang around there almost every day like I do, relationships ensue, and a very passionate collection of your art also begins to happen. So that's my advice to anybody who wants to know how to sell your art. Don't always shoot for the big fancy outlets, the big conglomerate art fairs and art shows. They will cost you a bundle. They will probably charge you a massive commission for what, I don't know. But truly, there's nothing like the personal touch of a little cafe or diner. And, well, give it a try. And I'd love to hear in the comments, read in the comments your experiences with cafes and diners. Maybe with galleries, with art fairs. What is the way that you have found that really works for you to sell your art? And maybe you've got some ideas that I haven't tried yet. And maybe viewers can pick up some tips from our suggestions. Hey, listen, if you enjoyed this, hit the subscribe button. And you'll be notified the next time I do one of these little cafe videos. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.